when you watch these streaming services and they're talking about their inclusion and diversity initiatives, they'll put these TV shows that are Spanish shows, and I mean from Spain, in the box of diversity and inclusion. And I want each of you to speak on this. And I'm going to speak from my perspective first, and then I'll allow the rest of you. People from Spain, the Spanish people, they're from Spain. Those are our white people. Those they are European people who speak Spanish. Spanish is the language of many of our colonizers. So we scoff at each other for not being able to and do all that bullshit. That's not our native tongue. I come from Tainos, Africanos, and our native tongue is none of that. So when we hear people talking about y'all got this show called The Heist and it's been all world, and I have Spanish friends who are like, oh, you always going in on us. And I'm like, no, I don't think people really understand. Spain is part of the problem of colonization that did so much damage throughout the world. And if we talk about France and we talk about the United States and Great Britain, we cannot exclude Spain because we give them this connotation of Latinidad. And so for me, it's like when I have to say I'm working on a television show about us where the characters look like everybody that's here today, I have to explain it to a degree that is so much work. And so I wanted to open that up to the three of you as well, because I think you all have a perspective on this. And I don't think people really understand what that means.
I'm so glad. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to very quickly say, I don't consider Spanish people Latinos. I have a lot of Spanish friends and I love them. And there's, some of my best friends are Spanish, but they're not Latinos. And, I don't think that they should be applying for like Latino scholarships. That's my.
Yeah, I agree.
You were holding.
I'm so glad you brought this up, Aida, because I was on Netflix the other day and it was like, talking about celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. And I saw a lot of Spanish content in there from Artress Media, which I agree is amazing. I'm a fan of Money Heist, but they're not Latino. And to that point, and to anyone watching who has some sort of power to try to change that, because I thought that was atrocious, you need to center or at least create more initiatives to have Latino-based content. And as well as, I love that this is a thing in popular culture, because it is not going to force people to ask themselves, no, we don't want the Spanish because geographically speaking, they're in Europe and they colonized us. Eso está bien. But today, hoy en día, who is holding, a lot of these systems alive in all of our different countries, from Mexico to Argentina, are white Latinos. So I think this is a great opportunity for everybody to start asking themselves, what is really going on racially? Because it's not difficult. It's not hard to understand. I'm Black, someone who's white. Someone who's white is more likely to get into a space where, they're accepted and not viewed as, salvaje, or, you're going to be told papenarse, or to be told, their forma de ser is a little bit out of the, it's wild. And these are things that I've all heard because I'm not, clear cut and etc. And even as an academic, which is laughable. So yeah, I love that this happened in pop culture, and I'm excited to see how that conversation unfolds. Not that I'm optimistic, though.
Melinna.
Hostia, joder, tía Aida. Bueno, es una cuestión. I gotta tell you, some of the most racist fucking people I ever experienced in my life were Spaniards. I did a 2-month theatrical tour throughout Spain when I was in the big city, in Madrid, in Alcalá. It was not that big, but it's still in proximity. I was fine. There's immigrants there. There's North African folks. There's Colombianos. There's some Mexicanos. But let me tell you, when I got to those tiny, quaint little villages, people would look at me like this, the same way white women look at me in certain parts of town here. I got into it with someone because she told me que hostia, tengo que hablar cristiano cuando esté en el país de ellos. So according to her, Castilian Spanish is the Christian language, which is the layers of trauma and whackness there, I could not even unpack. So yeah, I mean, exactly what Julissa and what Gata said, like, it's very clear, and I need Hollywood execs to know this, and also the Hispanic caucus, and anyone who continues like validating Hispanic. That term is so problematic because it centers our colonizer. It leads with the colonizer. It allows the colonizer to define how we exist in the world, and that being the most salient part of our identity. And I gotta call out, this one of these Hollywood diversity reports. I want to say it's the one that came out of USC. When they are talking, when and you can find this online, if you look at the pie charts and all the other charts and the percentages, they for some reason thought it appropriate to include Spaniards in those studies, along with Mexicans and Boricuas and Dominicans and everyone else from Latin America and the Caribbean. So I think that is something that we need to be really clear about. And thank you, Gata, for bringing this up too, that it's not just Spaniards who are in Spain right now, but white Latinidad exists in Latin America. And so just because they're a few generations removed doesn't mean that they enjoy any less privilege. And I want to say that, in terms of like projects, going back to this idea of sterilization, because at the end of the day, like Julissa and I may disagree over the terminology or how we relate to our own identity, etc. But I know that when it comes to the material changes we want to make for our community and for other communities of color, I know that we are all in an alliance together. And I know that I can call on each one of you just as you could call on me. So thinking about this idea of how race overlaps and informs these very real oppressions, this movie that right now it's called For Rosa. It is based on the Madrigal 10 of the forced hysterectomies that were happening here in Los Angeles. And I play a woman who is a composite of some of the different women who were involved in the lawsuit, who had tubal ligations. And one of the conversations I had with my director, who is a white woman, and I told her, I need her to be bilingual. I need this character to be bilingual because we cannot only say that this is about language. These women were racialized, and if you watch this documentary, No Más Bebés, that came out on PBS a few years ago, you can find clips online. Most of these women look like me and Julissa, like they could be our tias or mothers. And so we are racialized in a very particular way. We do experience racism. So I think when we, the conversation can continue about identity, and I'm fine with it. I'm not someone who, I see these conversations like people battling about like, I don't like the word Latinx. What is Latinx? I hate the X. It's like, shut up. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. So for me, it's kind of like, we can call ourselves whatever we want, but we will continue walking the world in a certain way. So that's that. Hopefully, you'll invite us a third time, Aida, and we can.
No, this is going to be a series all unto itself because it's going to be called Aida Learns.